After the demise of Oroku Saki, Master Splinter had no choice but to take control of the Foot Clan to protect his family and his city. But one day, Karai, a long descendant of Oroku Saki, would return to declare war on Splinter and reclaim her birthright. The events of this war would result in the death of an essential character, a terrorist attack on the people of New York, and the creation of a new Ninja Turtle. Today, I will talk about IDW's version of City at War. This saga was published in 2019 by IDW between issues 93 and 100 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, including that year's free comic book day special. I've also included issues 91 and 92 for this video, plus the Shredder and Hell miniseries, which I already covered in great detail in another video. The saga was written by Tom Waltz, Bobby Curnow, and Kevin Eastman. The art was done by Michael Diolinas, Dave Wachter, Matteo Santaluco, Adam Gorham, Dan Duncan, Corey Smith, Rhonda Pattison, and Bill Crabtree. And letters were done by Sean Lee. Before jumping into this saga, let's do a short recap of the story up to this point. In feudal Japan, Takeshi Tatsuo founded the Foot Clan with the help of Kitsune, a member of the pantheon of demigods that kept him immortal, as he had the soul of his father imprisoned in his soul, and she wanted to free him from the cycle of reincarnation. But one day, Takeshi was killed, and his soul reincarnated in Oroku Saki. Years later, Oroku Saki remembered his past life, and when his clan brother Hamato Yoshi refused to follow his orders, Saki killed Yoshi's wife, and much later, Yoshi and his 4 sons. As part of Kitsune's plan, Saki committed harakiri to ensure his immortality. He would be brought back to life centuries later by Karai as part of a blood ritual. In the present day, 4 turtles and a lab rat were transformed by an alien ooze. This, paired with some experiments that were done on them, helped Yoshi and his 4 sons reincarnate together. The aliens behind the experiment were the Utroms, under the rule of General Krang, who was trying to build a technodrome on Burnow Island that could allow him to terraform the Earth to make it hospitable for his race. The Turtles put an end to Krang and sent him to trial, where Leatherhead ate him. The scientist working for Krang was Baxter Stockman, who then changed sides to work for the Foot Clan. However, Baxter would easily change sides depending on his intentions. After he helped avert a national crisis by sending the Triceratons to Burnow Island and helping the city with their rat infestation, he became a popular public figure, and he decided to run for mayor of New York with April as his campaign manager, who was there mostly to keep track of him. While he worked for Krang, Baxter also experimented on another mutant, Old Hob, a street cat mutated by the same ooze as the Turtles. He escaped to found the Mutanimals, a group of activist mutant animals. Unfortunately, one of these Mutanimals, Slash, recently had to sacrifice himself after months of being mind-controlled by Agent Bishop, the head of the Earth Protection Force, or EPF for short. Agent Bishop was born deformed, so his father did everything he could to make him perfect by creating an exoskeleton to hide his form from the outside world. Like his father, Bishop wanted to rid the Earth of everything that didn't belong there, like aliens and mutants. The never-ending battle between Splinter and the Shredder ended with Saki's defeat in a gauntlet for the control of the Foot Clan. Saki committed seppuku, but before dying, he promised Kitsune that he would find his way back to her. Kitsune escaped with Shredder's body, but Splinter kept his head just in case. Splinter became the leader of the Foot Clan, while Karai left for Japan to consolidate the Foot Clan over there and find an ancient blade that belonged to Takeshi and could only be handled by those who were blood-related. The Kira no Ken, the Sword of Hate, was a blade provided by the gods to drive back invasions. With this sword in her power, Karai cemented her place as a leader, accompanied by Natsu, Koya, Ocho, and Bludgeon. Metalhead, the AI turtle with a copy of Donatello's mind, went rogue, hungry for upgrades. The Turtles broke rank with the Foot Clan after disagreeing with Splinter's methods. Leo agreed to let Karai take over the clan to get their father back. After being attacked by Bishop's forces, Raphael had a hard time adjusting back to reality, and so he started sympathizing with the most violent approach to things of the mutanimals. After saving some lost orphans from the attack of the Rat King, the Turtles put them in the custody of the Foot Clan. This brought Splinter and the Turtles back together in a way. With the Turtles out of the clan, Jennika became the new Chunin, an ally to the Turtles and a romantic interest for Casey Jones. This relationship made sense, as both came from broken homes and were known for making many bad decisions. The start of the saga could be traced to Kitsune's visit to Karai, asking her to take the Foot Clan back, as Splinter's actions only weakened it. He had also kept the Shredder's head as a trophy. Then she talked about the Kira no Ken and how only she and Karai could tame its terrible curse, thanks to the dragon's blood flowing through Karai. Karai returned to the Foot headquarters in New York to pay her respects to her grandfather's grave. Splinter then warned her that not all of his body was present there, as Kitsune stole most of it for arcane purposes. While she was there, Leo had a conversation with Splinter about Karai's intentions of getting control over the Foot again. Splinter did not take it lightly that Leo spoke for the clan, and reminded him that he took on the role to protect his family and the city from her potential actions. Leo then told him that they didn't need a protector, they needed a father. These words got through Splinter, who then decided to relinquish his role to Karai, as this was something that he'd been contemplating often since he first rose as Master of the Foot. Not only that, he also found out about Karai's actions in Japan against the Yakuza, and how she consolidated power very quickly. And while he didn't approve of those violent methods, he understood that sometimes they were necessary, and he no longer wanted to be the one dealing with them. He also asked for a truce between the Hamato and the Foot clans, working sometimes as allies against common enemies like the Pantheon. The alliance with the Mutanimals and the Purple Dragons would need to be discussed with them, especially since Casey's Purple Dragons were allied to the clan because of Splinter. It looked like the transfer of power was going well, until the orphans living in the headquarters were discussed. Splinter said that they would be kept in the joint care of the Foot and the Hamato clans, but Karai disagreed. She saw them as future soldiers. Furthermore, the children had been exposed to the clan's inner workings. The Foot's integrity depended on them being conscripted or dying. Splinter prohibited the training of the children, and Karai challenged him to a gauntlet for the clan's leadership. Splinter, knowing that he'd be gambling with the lives of those orphans, refused the challenge. Karai accused him of being weak, and she took his refusal to the challenge as a forfeit of the throne. Her attempt at a coup was cut short thanks to Jennika, Casey, and the elites, who asked her to leave. But this wasn't the only conflict coming the Turtles' way. Metalhead approached Agent Bishop to make an alliance. He would help him locate and destroy the Ninja Turtles and their allies. Once that objective was complete, Bishop would grant him access to Area 51 to interface with the advanced technologies contained within. With the drums of war approaching, the Foot Clan tightened their security. The Turtles also improved the lair security system, and with the help of Harold and Libby, Donatello upgraded the Turtle Van. Leo asked Raph to coordinate a safe zone between their lair and the Mutanimals' headquarters, but Raph, still having rage issues after this brutal confrontation with Bishop, got tired of Leo and stormed off. But unbeknownst to the Turtles, Karai was already executing her strategy behind their backs. First, she invaded the Puzzarelli mansion and offered him to pledge allegiance to her instead of Splinter in exchange for canceling his debt forever. Otherwise, the Oroku clan would crush all he held precious in this world. Another action Karai took was to send a message to Jennika, asking to meet with her on neutral ground to discuss a truce, with mutants not allowed. She discussed it with the Turtles and figured out she could use the rules in her favor by bringing Casey and Angel, also known as Nobody, to the meeting point. She could be lying, but because honor meant more than anything to Karai, there were no reasons to suspect bad intentions. Still, Donnie thought they could spy on them using the cloaking mechanisms of the Turtle Van. The meeting took place, But it wasn't exactly about a truce. Instead, Karai wanted to recruit Jenny to her side. But because Master Splinter saw the flaws in Jenny and still gave her a chance to rise again, she was loyal to him, not the Foot Clan. Karai then impaled Jenica with a sudden move. Karai and her clan left triumphant, while the turtles and their allies were left with a dying Jenica in their arms. On their way to the hospital, they were attacked by Koya and Bludgeon, who were trying to make sure that the Foot's Chunin died. This forced Nobody, Raph, and Casey to stay behind and deal with them. When the van arrived at the hospital, Karai's goons were waiting for them, ready to ambush them. Knowing that taking Jenica inside was impossible, Donnie asked Leo and Alapex to stay behind and create a diversion while he tried a different method to save her. They then went to Harold's lab. But Donnie didn't know he was stepping into an accidental trap. Metalhead led the EPF to watch the turtle lair, but the only living being there was Pepperoni. Metalhead then, having access to Donnie's memories, figured out there was another place where they could find them: Harold's lab. The van arrived with Jenica at the lab, and while Harold and Libby tried to keep her stable, Donnie called April to ask her about that time she used the ooze to heal her father's stroke. April told him that his only chance to repeat the experiment was to talk to Lindsay, her former workmate at StockGen and now scientist ally of the Mutanimals. Casey and Raph returned from their fight against Bludgeon, and Donnie sent them to get Lindsay to the lab. On their way out, Leo, Alapex, and Nobody returned. Leonardo called Splinter to give him the bad news and warned him that Karai had her own ninjas, and some of the crime families seemed to have switched sides. The two news made Splinter send the Foot Clan to make an example out of Puzzarelli's gang. When Casey and Raph arrived at the Mutanimals headquarters, Lindsay was already in the loop thanks to April. Casey took her back in the van, but Raph decided to stay behind and help the Mutanimals in their mission against Madame Null. Using a Triceraton ship, the Mutanimals and Raph attacked Null Industries, and they could have put an end to Madame Null if she hadn't had two mutants with her when she got into her helicopter. Sally refused to shoot mutants. During the attack, Raph discovered that the invasion's main purpose didn't have anything to do with revenge, but to steal DNA sequencing data. In this way, they could stop Null from making mutant slaves and allow Hobb to create mutant soldiers instead. The van arrived at the lab, where Lindsay showed April how much ooze she had. April considered that to be more than enough to save Jenica. They started the procedure but were interrupted by Metalhead, who invaded the lab ahead of the EPF and wasted all the ooze. It was now clear that Jenica was not going to make it. Libby put on a mechanical attack suit to deal with Metalhead, but by then the EPF was already inside the lab, fighting against the turtles and their allies who had to escape in the turtle van with Jenny. They passed through a dimensional portal with the van that took them to their original sewer lair, and before Metalhead could go behind them, Libby destroyed the portal. Because they helped the turtles who were considered mutant terrorists, Harold and Libby were taken under the custody of the EPF. At the original sewer layer, they knew they didn't have enough time to waste. They had to find a place where Donnie had never been before, as it wouldn't be in Metalhead's memories. Angel suggested her father's apartment, and Leo sent Casey to round up the purple dragons and check out the area to see if it was free of their enemies with Angel and Alapex. Leo then asked Mikey to also look for Raph. Donnie and Lindsay's last resource was to do a blood transfusion from Leonardo, hoping that the ooze in his blood would be enough to save her. This method worked, but it also mutated her into a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. At the Baxter's campaign office, April found out he was having a secret meeting with Madame Null. She wanted to make a deal with him wherein TCRI licensed all its facilities and research to Null Industries. Null would do all the R&D, and Baxter would get all the money. This way, they would benefit from the yield of mutant genetics, keeping Baxter's hands clean. On their way to Angel's place, Casey and Jenica cross paths for the first time after her mutation. Seeing Jenny like this shocked Casey, and his reaction was a terrible hit for Jenica. But while they seemed safe from the EPF, they weren't out of danger. Some Oroku assassins went after Jenica, but they had some backup to face them. Hun and Casey went in to help. After scaring them away, Alapex took one of the yellow clothes left behind and gave it to Jenica to wear as her headband. She also took on their tekokage and sword and took them as her signature weapons. Casey told Jenny he was glad she was still with them, which angered his father, Hun, who had had enough of the mutant freaks. On his way out, Hun caught the attention of Agent Bishop. Bishop recruited Hun into his quest to destroy all mutants. He then took him to train on how to control the Slash clones. Back at the Foot headquarters, Splinter entered his chambers, where he noticed Karai was waiting for him in the shadows, so he surprised her with his prehensile tail. Karai revealed she knew about Splinter's rage issues, so she pushed him into a quest for revenge against the mob bosses. Plus, her attack on his Chunin angered him even more. While he wasted his time going against mob families, she used it to marshal her forces for an attack on the Foot Clan headquarters. The surprise attack was so fast that even though the Foot tried to protect the children, the Oroku clan managed to catch them all. The turtles arrived just in time to fight to defend the Foot Clan, but unfortunately by then, the war was pretty much over. Karai didn't want to make a martyr out of Splinter, so she marked his face with the Kira no Ken and gave a speech on top of the battlefield. She ordered the ninjas to kneel before her, and promised them they would train the next generation of soldiers while holding one of the kids at gunpoint. Everyone kneeled except for the turtles, who escaped despite Raph's complaints. Karai then ordered Splinter to be locked up in a tomb cell, never to be opened again without any water or food. With nowhere left to go, the turtles stayed in April's apartment with Pepperoni. But the mood in the room was tense, especially between Raph and Leo, who got into a fight discussing what they should have done. Raph, as usual, stormed off to help Old Hob on his missions, since his more direct ways fit better with how he thought they should have done things. But Old Hob and Man Ray worked on a special project behind the Mutanimals' back. Mondo, who used his abilities to spy on them, was completely terrified about the implications. The Mutanimals got ready to interrupt Baxter's winning speech. Hob ordered Sally to take down the EPF fan, which she didn't do, but she did shoot next to it without killing anyone. Old Hob, Man Ray, Mondo, and Raph tried to make their way to the stage. Hob asked Mondo and Raph to take care of the soldiers, something Raph objected to as there were also cops there. Mondo warned Raph that it was too late now. Old Hob was planning something serious. Just in case, Baxter ordered his drones to take him and April to safety. Leo saw Raph on TV and asked Mikey and Donnie to go with him to rescue Harold and Libby. He asked Lindsay to stay there taking care of Pepperoni and the rest to go check if April was okay and drag Raph out of there. Old Hob took the stage and broke the news about the existence of mutants, and how they've been kept secret by everybody in power, including the new mayor. He declared they were fed up with staying a secret and wanted to change everything. With the worst timing in the world, Bishop and Hun interrupted with their Slash clones. After seeing them, Hob threw a special bomb in their direction. The explosion released an airborne substance into a crowd, mutating everyone it touched. In the middle of this chaos, Hob ordered Sally to land and take the new mutants back to safety from the EPF, who didn't care that these mutants were humans mere minutes before. Raph felt betrayed by Old Hob and stormed off again, abandoning Jenica, Casey, Alapex, and Nobody, who had just arrived. The ship left with a group of new mutants, away from the EPF. Back at the Foot headquarters, Splinter received the visit of Tang Shen, asking him to find his strength to rise and escape this prison, as the children, not just their sons, needed him. After this vision, Splinter noticed the Rat King there with him, who warned him about the return of the Dragon God and tempted him to become his knight, to which Splinter refused and started making a hole in the wall with his bare fist. Now joined by Bebop, Rocksteady, and Anchovy, Karai gave a speech to all the criminal families under her power. She told them that they were now independent within their territories, and were no longer required to pay tributes to them. However, the Foot would remain overseers and peacekeepers, ensuring nobody would step out of line. Otherwise, they would be forced to course correct them. Metalhead forced Harold and Libby to build a new portal despite their telling him that Bishop was going to betray him. Leo, Mike, and Donnie saw the situation and recognized that they needed to act fast. Donnie jumped in to protect them and told Metalhead that there was nothing wrong with the portal, but with himself, as using the portal required a certain leap of faith. Metalhead explained that he wanted to acquire higher knowledge and advanced technical resources, and for that, he needed to leave the planet. The spacecraft in Area 51 would suffice, or more directly, this teleporter. Donnie showed Metalhead that the portal worked, and after using it briefly, he came back with a device called the Metal Buster that took down Metalhead. Now, there's no specific moment to do this break, so I decided to make it here. Parallel to City at War, there was another miniseries that I already covered on this channel, Shredder in Hell. You should watch that video for the whole detailed story, but I'll try to explain it briefly now. In the afterlife, Saki found out that he was never free to make his own decisions, as the dragon spirit was imprisoned in his soul, and it influenced all the decisions he'd made in all of his past lives. But now, in the dream, he was free for the first time to return to the Samsara wheel and break free from his lives as Takeshi Tatsuo and Oroku Saki, and most importantly, from the Dragon God. But because he loved Kitsune and promised to find his way back to her, he decided to return to the earthly realm after all. The Dragon God was the father of the Pantheon, and was imprisoned by his sister, the Dreamer, inside of Takeshi's soul so that he could be a part of the cycle of reincarnation, never being able to accumulate power. Back to City at War, Kitsune showed up to Karai to commend her for her achievements. Then she left with Akira no Ken right before a portal opened. Out of this portal were the Turtles, who came to rescue Splinter and the children, as Agent Bishop's truce was with Splinter, not Karai, and given that she also has mutants of her own, she was now a target for the EPF. It was then that Karai realized Kitsune stole the Kira no Ken. The EPF crossed the portal and started fighting the Clan, Bebop, Rocksteady, and Leonardo. Bebop and Rocksteady fought against the Slash clones, Leo fought against Bishop, and Casey and Jenica versus Hun. Mikey and Donnie had their own quest to release the children, but Koya and Bludgeon were guarding them. Fortunately, nobody and Alapex came to aid them. Karai went down to Splinter's cell to have a conversation, and then discovered that he'd escaped. Splinter, now free, went to the Second Time Around store, where he hid Saki's skull. When Karai found Kitsune, she had Shredder's body and helmet ready for the dragon's return. She needed the Kira no Ken to return something that belonged to the gods and recover something that was lost to her. In the middle of the fight against the EPF, Raph showed up in a timely manner to help Leo fight Bishop. Raph was willing to kill him, but Leo stopped him, as he was no longer a threat. The two brothers then reconciled. Raph said he was so sorry for how much he messed up, and Leo told him that there was nothing he could have done to stop old Hob from doing what he did. Ultimately, what mattered was that after seeing what he did, he decided to return to his family. But Bishop was not finished. He attacked Jenica and later, tired of Casey's attitude, also tried to kill him. When he noticed what Bishop was about to do, Hun sacrificed himself to save his son. Without Hun to control him, one of the Slash clones remembered when a mind-controlled Slash killed Bishop's father, then proceeded to stop Bishop in the same way. On the rooftop, with the Kira no Ken burning within Shredder, the dragon finally arrived. Kitsune, still controlling Ojo, ordered her to knock down Karai, as she needed her to finish the ritual. With the Kira no Ken returned to the gods, Ojo's curse was over, and she finally moved on to the next life. It was then that, like a phoenix, the dragon rose, ready to destroy everything. This compromised the building's structure, endangering the orphans even more. Fortunately, Harold and Libby reunited with the Fugitoid on planet Neutrino and opened a portal to take all the children there, far away and protected from the Foot Clan. Kitsune's ritual suffered a setback when Alapex rescued Karai. but Kitsune then asked Shredder to recover Karai. For this, he sent an army of mindless demons. Splinter contacted all his allies telepathically and asked them to go to the rooftop to contain the demons while he forced the dragon back to where it came from. To achieve this, he went into another realm, and with Shen, he talked to Saki. He offered to bring him back, hoping his return would put Kitsune at ease. But to maintain the balance of life and death, someone needed to die. So Splinter said goodbye to his extended family, telling them that he had been his family's weakest link for a while now, and this was his chance to correct his wrongs. He added that it would be Saki's turn to save the world next time. When the skull reached the soulless body of the Shredder, it slashed the dragon, and his corpse fell onto the streets. In the aftermath, Kitsune and Saki reunited. Saki promised her that she was never going to be alone again. In Planet Neutrino, the kids adjusted perfectly to their new life. But then Fugitoid gave Harold some bad news. They discovered the nature of the Utrom and how they came to dominate their planet. They were parasitic organisms, which meant that General Krang was still alive, living in Leatherhead's belly. The saga ends in the afterlife, with Yoshi and Shen reunited again in the dream. Yoshi wondered how they could be together, and Shen told him that he kept the promise he made to her of protecting their children. But this wouldn't be the end for these two souls. Check out my Shredder in Hell video to see what happened next. After this saga, the Turtles and their extended family buried Splinter in Northampton, and as a result, would be apart for 6 months. To contain and hopefully neutralize the effects of the mutagen bomb, Mayor Stockman erected a 50-foot wall around what was now called Mutant Town. This zone would be under the jurisdiction of the EPF, with no one authorized to go in or out until the mutagenic agent was completely neutralized. As for Shredder and Kitsune, they went on a redeeming path. Theirs, plus the plots around Baxter, Madame Knoll, and Leather Krang, continued into the Armageddon Game event, where the Turtles finally fought against the Rat King. As for Karai and the Foot Clan, they continued playing a role in the background, but their story will continue in the untold destiny of the Foot Clan. When asked about the decision to make Jennika into a Ninja Turtle, Tom said that they would often get asked at conventions why there wasn't a girl turtle, usually asked by little girls. Kevin and Tom agreed on it, and Nickelodeon also agreed, as long as they made it matter. Jennika was originally a throwaway character for issues 51 and 52 that Waltz liked so much that he kept her around. This is why he already knew he had the right character for a female Ninja Turtle. She was like a daughter to Splinter. She was already a ninja, and she was like a sister to the Turtles. Then, when Brom Revel wrote the What is Ninja story, Waltz knew they had an important character. So once the who was decided, they needed to plan the when, which took years of planning. To pitch the character, Tom Waltz asked Sophie Campbell to create a design for Jennika as a Ninja Turtle. Sophie already had experience drawing female Ninja Turtles, as she'd been working on fanfiction with her own character, Artemisia. Tom decided on the color of her headband, which would be yellow like her human hair. But there would be other differences with the other turtles. She would keep her ninja clothes. The idea was that she wouldn't feel comfortable as a turtle initially, so she would continue wearing them. However, all the turtles ended up wearing clothes after the saga. Another artistic decision was the choice of weapon, which in this case was the Tekokage, a callback to her time as an assassin. When the time arrived, Dave Watchter knew Jennika's transformation would be a big deal. And while he started doing digital pencils with issue 93, he switched to paper for issue 95, so that people could own Jennika's transformation art. Tom Waltz left the book after City at War, and started working with Kevin Eastman on The Last Ronin. He would later return for the Armageddon Game event. The next writer was Sophie Campbell, who was left with a few time bombs. First, the elephant in the room for her was Jennika, who she had to figure out as a character and discover her place in the family, as she was still pretty much a blank canvas. Another plot she inherited was the mutagen bomb effects, which she almost extended to the whole city, but the idea was shot down. She was only supposed to stay for 12 issues, but her run extended to a total of 50 issues. City at War in IDW's TMNT is a pivotal story. Just like its original Mirage counterpart, it stands out by significantly altering the lives of the turtles and introducing key character developments, including Kurai's introduction to the franchise. This IDW version differs from the original, offering a more mainstream approach filled with action and tension. However, some story elements like Metalhead's involvement and the mutagen bomb feel somewhat disconnected from the main plot, leading to a more complex narrative than necessary. There's also an inconsistency between the ending of Shredder in Hell and this saga. At the end of the miniseries, Shredder asked for the Kira no Ken, and in the main book, Kitsune already had it before resurrecting him. Tom Waltz would take this format to the extreme during the Armageddon Game event, but that's a topic for another day. As a TMNT fan, I appreciate the saga for its ambition and impact, even though some aspects of the storytelling could have been tighter. But that's just me getting nitpicky. I really enjoyed reading the saga. What about you? Do you like it when events have so many seemingly disconnected plots? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, see you in the sewers.